Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Northwest Craftsman. Today I'm going to be talking about how to make a removable mortise and tenon joint. Now, a removable mortise and tenon joint is really useful when you have something that is larger that you want to take apart eventually. Normally with my mortise and tenon joints, I just glue them so that they stay rock solid for the life of the product. Problem is, if you have something that's going to need to be disassembled at some point, you need something that can both hold your mortise and tenon firm while allowing you to remove it later. So here's what I'm talking about. So on my bed frame, I've got two stringers on either side like this, and the problem is I don't want to be trying to move this entire structure all in one go. One, it's too large for the house, and so trying to move this through the house is just going to be a bear, and two, it's going to be way too heavy. And so I've made this into three components. I've got the headboard, I've got the footboard, and then I've got the center connecting components. And for each one of these at either end, I have the technique that I'm going to be using for a removable mortise and tenon. So what you're going to want to do is use some of these Easy Lock or similar threaded inserts, and what they have is a thread on the outside that allows you to screw it in with a hex nut, but then on the inside beyond the hex nut is another threaded pattern for a bolt. So this will thread into your wood, so it'll sit something like this. You'll drill a pilot hole through your piece of wood right here, through your tenon. This guy's gonna sit on the inside right here, and then you're gonna put a bolt in from the top, and it's gonna connect in with those threads on the inside. So what that allows you to do is it allows you to screw both of those in on the tenon itself and keep it nice and tight, but then when you want to remove it, you can just undo those bolts, pull it apart, and then you can pull the whole thing apart. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these guys put together for you. I'm gonna use that on all three of these right here, and I'm gonna kind of show you what that looks like and what that install process entails. Okay, so the first step that you're gonna do is get a dry fit together of everything that's inside of your assembly. You wanna make sure that it is assembled together as closely as it's gonna be so that you have an accurate marking, because what we're going to do is, once we have all of these guys in place, we're going to then look at our bolt holes, which we have already drilled in place, and we're going to mark the inside of those so that we know where to drill our hole. So one of the things that you're going to want to keep in mind is that if your hole is much larger than the size of a pencil, now I've got two holes, I've got a countersink right here so that I can fit the head of the fastener in. But if your inner hole is much bigger than the size of your marking instrument, you're going to want to make sure that you get a center punch of some kind that can fit through there, tight to the outside diameter of your, or sorry, the inside diameter of your hole. I guess it's just the diameter of your hole. But tight to the diameter of your hole so that when you mark it, you're actually marking the center where this meets, not just marking around the edge, because you really need to make sure that you get that accurate. Once you're done marking, you should have some nice clean marks right on the center of your tenon if you drilled the holes on the outside correctly. So this guy is just a hair off center, probably because my hole on the outside is a hair off center of where my mortise actually is, but this is where I need to drill it in order to put the threaded insert. Same thing over here, I need to put the threaded insert right here. So next up, we're gonna go through all of them, drill the holes in these two locations, and then we're gonna start threading the insert in. All right, and next up we're gonna put just a little bit of epoxy on both of these guys before we thread them in. Well, if I'm being totally honest, I was a little bit worried about this, and this did not go according to plan. The threaded inserts went in just fine, but my tenon was so thin that it just went ahead and popped out the bottom of that tenon right there because it was too close to the edge. So I'm going to need to figure out a way to strengthen those or support those the next time I'm putting these in. In the meantime, I am going to try to strengthen up this joint right here so that I can go ahead and trim it back down so that it will actually fit into my mortise the next time that I do it. Sure enough, as I had suspected, if I was able to support this joint, it was not going to crack and not going to pop out. So what I did is I threw a scrap piece of wood on the top and the bottom that mirrored or was about the same size as this tenon. And then I just threw some clamps on the top and bottom. And even though this one especially was right next to the edge, I was able to support it so nothing popped out. So I'm going to leave these here until the epoxy sets so that theoretically, if it's going to try and pop out before the epoxy is set, it won't have the opportunity to. And we'll see how well this works. All right, so as with most things around the shop, not everything goes according to plan. Just like this did not exactly go according to plan, but you learn, you adapt, and you grow, and you overcome what's coming your way. Especially as a new woodworker, I still run into a lot of these mistakes that I end up making where it's like, oh, I should have thought that that wasn't going to be well enough supported. But the most important thing is that you learn from those mistakes every time. And so in this case, I know that I need to support a joint that's small or find another way to put those threaded inserts in so that I can support the wood, or just have it in thicker to start with so that I don't need to support the wood because it would be self-supporting. So learn from my mistakes. Either start with a thicker tenon and then trim it down, or don't even put your tenon on, just put the threaded inserts in first and then trim your tenon down. Problem you might run into that is trying to get your threaded inserts in the correct location, or just go through and support the wood like I did if you know that it's going to be kind of thin and kind of on the verge. So a couple of different options, but I wish you all luck, and I hope that this joint works well. If it works great, I'll let you know. If it doesn't work great, I will let you know, but I'm really excited because this was one of the best options to get a good firm mortise and tenon joint without gluing it together and making it also removable. So thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great one, and I will talk to you later.